I'll be there. That's 9 o'clock. We'll get the meeting started and we'll do the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
Everybody's had a chance to look at the agenda. Is there any questions about the agenda? If not, is there a motion to approve?
I would like to consider pulling number 8 action, being that we have another person indicating interest, or do we want to talk about it at discussion?
I want to keep number 8 as an action item, and we can have a discussion at that time.
Okay.
Is there a motion to approve?
So,
Is there a second to that?
second.
Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Approve previous minutes, board meeting minutes from July 2nd, 2024. Everybody's had a chance to look at those. Is there any additions or corrections? If not, is there a motion to approve?
Mm.
Which one? I'll second. You guys want to trade? Okay. Motion's been made and seconded. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Minutes from our workshop session, July 9th. Everybody's had the chance to look at those. Are there any additions or corrections to those? If not, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Now we'll move on to public comment. Is there anybody that would like to make a public comment? Mike, would you like to?
Just tell me how you want me to do.
Just, if you can just come forward and you could have a seat and just identify yourself.
Straight ahead, or-
That's fine. Right there would be fine too, if you'd rather.
Okay.
Yep.
I'm Michael Werner.
Yep.
Houston County taxpayer. And I guess I'm trying to figure out what's the best way to communicate as I unable to read notes and that, obviously. So I was wondering if it'd be okay if someone would be willing to read what I've typed on my phone for me, and then I'll make a couple comments
Okay.
on that. Is that okay?
Yep.
Commissioner John?
Allison, would you do that? Our clerk of board, can do that for you?
Thanks. Hopefully you can see the screen.
Yes.
And by the way, I usually was like a C student in grammar.
You'll be fine.
This isn't Allison. It's Mike.
Start with the quote.
Yes, please.
The first minute of action is worth more than a year of perfect planning. James Clear 321 newsletter. A little background on myself. I worked at a bank in management and leadership for 15 years, including 13 years with multiple branches. I also worked with a leadership consultant for over 10 years and took his year-long vision to action program and participated in roundtables. My role at the bank also included commercial and agricultural lending, working with businesses, owners, and farmers. I have also served on a number of nonprofit boards. What I am about to say is from personal experience. Our county is in a stage of chaos, some self-inflicted and some from outside sources. Chaos can be good if you can manage it. Appointing Carol Lapham as interim administrator is a great first step. She was with the county when I first moved to Caledonia in 2000 and was in various roles. She has a strong understanding of the inner workings of the whole county and is approachable by all employees. She definitely has the skills and knowledge to put into place a structure for efficient and effective service to the taxpayers. Right now, You need to address recruitment and retention as turnover of employees is expensive at all levels. Carol has the skills to do this and get employee buy-in. A simple but effective job description for the administrator is to work themselves out of a job. You have the right structure and systems in place to hire individuals that fit those roles. If you have, I think. The county will run itself in theory. Yet, as we all know, change is unavoidable and you continuously need to tweak your structure and roles to meet the need of the taxpayers. I do not think I am out of line when I say our county is running a 100-year-old model with a dated system and structure to be both effective and efficient. Individuals hired outside the county, including an administrator, will take 12 to 18 months to learn the inner workings of our county. We need to develop employees within the county to take these roles. This goes back to recruitment and retention. No one wants a dead-end job, and future advancement is a retention tool. I recommend voting for Carol Lapham as the interim administrator and encourage the board to work with Carol on identifying 3 items you would like addressed by the end of 6 months. You are going to get pushback by some department heads and taxpayers, so clear communication between the administrator and board is critical. The board, entire board, should determine in writing how they want to be communicated to, as well as how the administrator wants to be communicated to identify how often, what information, and what format, email, phone call, etc. If not already in place, there should be a policy on conflict resolution with employees and the public. The board needs to adhere to this policy. There is an election in November and 2 of the 3 commissioners are not running, and there may be a tendency to say, let's wait until the new commissioners are in place. Remember when you were first sworn in as commissioner and how many months it took to get your head around everything. Realize nothing you put in place cannot be modified or amended by the new board. In fact, you are waiting for the perfect handbook or policy. You will never have one. For those leaving the board, this is your legacy. How will you finish this race? Regards, Mike Warner, Houston County taxpayer. Yes?
Yes.
P.S. If you are concerned with the cost of an interim administrator, then go through the budget and any department over budget year to date, put in place a hiring freeze and no overtime. Even overtime has taken comp time affects. Even comp time affects the budget as the department does not get their work done and requests additional staff. As salaried department heads, you may need to put in extra hours of work on the front line to ensure the tasks of your department are completed in a timely manner.
Thank you, Alice. Just one more comment. I think it's, all of you know this, but the first thing when I came into the county today, to the courthouse, was I walked up the steps and held onto the guardrail and that guardrail was clean. And walked into the building and it was clean. Every position, whether you're a supervisor or a frontline employee, custodian, sheriff's deputy, etc., is very, very important to the taxpayers and to this county. And you've got exceptional staff. And it's key to be able to retain that. And one of those exceptional staff is Carol Lapham. And I think it would be a great mistake not to put her in an interim administrative role and to start to take steps to make our county more efficient and better serve the taxpayers. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. And I agree with your statement about everybody's important in this county and their role, so appreciate that. All right. We'll move on to appointments, 9:05.
Anybody else?
Oh, is there anybody else in the public comment? I'm sorry. Anybody on screen? Nope. Bob, you just missed the best speech the other day. All right, we'll move on to Southern Minnesota Regional Medical Examiner's Office, their Houston County report. Welcome.
Well, thank you. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, fellow commissioners.
Do you cover a wide area?
Yes. All right, hopefully. See that? Okay, so thank you for having me. I'm Ross Reichert. I'm the medical examiner for Houston County and chief medical examiner of the Southern Minnesota Regional Medical Examiner, and I'm here to provide our annual report to the county. And so just as a so just as a reminder, the dark blue counties are the ones that we provide the complete medical examiner services for. And then the light blue county are the ones that we do consult autopsies for. So we have a pretty good handle of what's going on in the region, which is nice. And so that's funny. Yeah, so sort of. So this is our list of our staff here. We have 4 medical examiners now. We have Monica Kendall, who's with me today, who's our supervisor of our death investigators. And unfortunately, on this version, which is different what I have printed out, it said add our county field investigators, which are Bob Cooper and Mike Bollinger, who've been the longtime investigators. And our field investigators are really the core of what makes this system work. They're the frontline staff that are here 24/7, 365, responding to the deaths. I can't say enough about the work that Bob and Mike do. They're great individuals that we work with. They've been a long time in these roles, and they're really top-notch death investigators, incredibly professional. Then we have our central office investigators in Olmsted County that support them, and then the final group there is our administrative staff that help us put together data in these types of presentations and the paperwork that goes on behind the scenes. So we had 174 deaths in Houston County last year. 164 were reported to the medical examiner's office through a variety of mechanisms, including hospice deaths, cremations, etc. And so based on that, we were involved and touched 94% of the deaths that occurred within the county. We certified 16 after a complete autopsy, and then we had 4 that we certified without doing an autopsy. And so those are typically situations where someone has an injury or something that occurs, keeps it under our jurisdiction, but that's well documented enough that we know what happened, that we don't need to do an autopsy to complete the death certificate. And then we had 144 that we did not certify. So those are ones that were reported to us that we released jurisdiction back to their primary care physician to complete the death certificate. But we would much rather have things reported to us and let us investigate them than to miss something. So just a brief reminder of what's on the death certificate. We'll go into some of these things in more detail in a moment. Cause of death, which is the underlying reason why someone died. The manner of death is its circumstances. There's 5 categories: natural accident, suicide, homicide, and undetermined. And then there's a lot of other information that's not on the public death certificate that the family receives, but is important for public health. Like, was this, at work? Was the person pregnant at the time? Et cetera. And who uses the death certificate? Obviously, the family does for closure and for a lot of legal and paperwork type of issues that arise. But that data then flows from the county up to the state health department, eventually to the CDC. So when you see these big numbers of this is how many deaths of drug overdoses or motor vehicle accidents or homicides occurred across the country, it really starts at that grassroots level with our field investigator going out to the scene and works its way all the way up. It's an interesting system in that regard. So manner of death by category. So the vast majority of the deaths here on the right are natural deaths, which is good. We had a few suicides and a number of accidents, which we'll go into in more detail. So the colored bar graphs we'll see are ones in which the death occurred in the county. And then we'll have some dark blue ones, which also capture if the injury occurred within the county as well. So we capture, so if someone gets injured in the county, something happens in the county and they get transported, we want to make sure we capture that information. So we have both the number of deaths that occurred And if something occurred in the county, then they were transported. So deaths by unnatural causes. So we've taken out the natural deaths here. And so we had a number of falls, which we'll go into in more detail, firearm and ligature hanging, which were the suicides, the motor vehicle accidents of 3, and poisoning or drug overdoses, and sharp force injuries or stabs or cuts, which is also a suicide. But we'll go into each one of these categories in more detail.
So in your last graph there, where for homicide, it's been 0 for the last.
Yes.
We're
Yes.
very fortunate to have that statistic in the Houston County.
Yes, yeah. Exactly, yeah.
Yep.
It's good to have some blanks on
Yep.
this data. This is one data where you want blanks can be a
Right,
good thing. Suicide by means, and so there are 3 deaths within the county, so 1 firearm, 1 hanging, and 1 sharp force injury. Suicide by age, they were all in the 45 to 64 category, so none in the younger category as well. So again, just trying to get a sense year over year for like public health reasons if there's something to be concerned about. Suicide rate per capita, and so this is where if the injury occurred in the county and they were transported, we're capturing all of those, so the deaths that occurred in the county and if the injury occurred in the county. So again, these are pretty small numbers, so it's a rate per 100,000. So there were 3 suicides, but none of them were transported. And you can see the red line is the state per capita rate. Again, these are small numbers, and so the bar graphs look pretty dramatic, but it's a small number can move that. Homicides, let's just keep this one blank and move on. This is the rate per capita. So we had a number in Goodhue, 1 in Mauer, 2 in Olmsted, and 1 in Winona. So relatively small numbers for our region, which is completely fine with me.
Yep.
Accidental deaths by type. So the leading cause is falls, which sometimes surprises people. This is typically elderly individuals that have other conditions. They fall and they get injured, and that's sort of the event that sort of tips them over the edge. Obviously, these are a big public health issue. They occur in healthcare facilities that are reported to the state, and so I think we're going to hear more about falls moving forward. 3 motor vehicle accidents and 2 drug overdoses. We'll go into those details. So these are the accidental deaths of vehicle crashes. So we had 2 automobiles accidents. Both were at high rates of speed, and they were impaired drivers. And we had 1 motorcycle that was struck by a truck.
So like farming accidents, that'd be in the other category.
It would depend, but we would capture that as
Okay.
well. And that would be work related too.
Okay,
Yeah, which a lot of people don't think about, that these can be work related, because they're like, oh, this is your farm, but it also is your business too.
Right.
We capture those as on the job accidents.
Yep.
So yeah. I'm laughing at myself because we have a farm, and I think that my dad is eventually going to be one of these guys on Sunday afternoon that
yeah.
is mowing the bush hog in the field. I'm like, so anyhow, that's anyhow, I digress. So vehicle types by accidents, and so this is in location, and so these are the types of vehicles that were involved in by the color code and the location. So again, trying to get a sense if there is like a particular location that might be concerning, but they're really kind of spread throughout various different roads. So this is the accidents by year. So again, trying to see if there's a year-over-year trend. And so again, it doesn't appear to be a cluster of anyone, and the size of the dot reflects the number of deaths that occurred there, and each one of these are 1 fatality. So this is the motor vehicle fatality rate per capita. So there were 3 fatalities in the county. All the injuries occurred in the county, and none of them were transported. So the numbers are the same. And again, you can see the state average, but again, because we're dealing with relatively low numbers, this can shift that per capita rate pretty dramatically. Accidental deaths by age group, and so this is or falls by age group, and so you can see the sort of that in the 85 to 94, and then we have a few in the 45 to 2 in the 45 to 64 group, and again, much shifted yet to the older population. occasionally we'll see someone in the younger group that's, falling down the stairs, typically while intoxicated, but this is a pretty typical older population. And so we've started tracking where they occur. So one was in a care facility, two were in a decedent's residence. So again, just trying to get a sense of where these occur. I think we're going to hear and talk a lot about falls as our population ages. We have 8 to 10,000 baby boomers turning 65 every day. So we got probably 30 more years of discussion. So the next medical examiner will be having this discussion, probably about me, but anyhow, it's going to be something we talk about for many years.
Increase.
It's definitely going to increase, and it'll be interesting to see what we do to try to address those issues. Deaths related to poisoning, which is the public health term for basically drug overdose. And so we had two they were both illegal drugs. And they were in the 26 to 44 age group. Interestingly, across this region, the majority of the drug overdose deaths that we've seen have been in the 45 to 64 age group. And they've typically been chronic drug users for years, and then probably have gotten fentanyl as part of something that they were taking, tipped them over that edge. Most of the deaths are occurring at home too now, or in the location that they've taken the drugs.
Can you determine if this is accidental overdose or intentional overdose?
Yes, we do investigate these. These were accidental, but yes, we do investigate that to make sure as best we can of whether it was intentional or not.
So the drugs that they were taking were possibly laced with fentanyl.
And I'll show you the
Yeah.
contents here, but yeah, that's really what we've seen is like it's be like one drug, meth or cocaine plus fentanyl. And so, quote, experienced drug users, you see someone who's sort of been a drug user for 10 or 15 years, and then they suddenly overdose, and now it has fentanyl in it.
Yep.
The tipping point.
Yep.
So this is the drug overdose rate per capita. And so see the low numbers. And so hopefully we're starting to see this trend down a little bit across the region. Hopefully that will continue. Hopefully we're out of on the other side of some of these pandemic related events.
Mhm.
And so this is what it looks like. So we had two deaths of drug overdose. They're both illicit drugs. They're both accidental. One was pure methamphetamine. And so methamphetamine is still around. It hasn't really gone away. We see methamphetamine and cocaine mixed together some frequency across this region. And the other one was fentanyl with multiple other drugs, which is not uncommon as well. So deaths by natural causes, heart disease and cancer are still the leading causes of death, across the country. And the numbers here, are parallel what we would see around the country. We had 3 liver related deaths, so it's kind of trended up a little bit. Those were all alcohol related. There has been an increased number of liver related deaths coming out of the pandemic, where there was an increase in alcohol consumption during the pandemic. So hopefully we'll start to see those trend down. Neurologic deaths, that's really reflecting our aging population. So that's dementia and stroke and other type of entities. And pulmonary has remained pretty stable. Deaths by age group. So this is a very quick way to get a sense of what's going on in a community. The further it's shifted to the right, the more natural deaths that are occurring. When you start to see peaks in the younger age groups, that's reflecting non-natural deaths, because your 16-year-old doesn't typically die of cancer. So that would reflect accidents, suicides, and homicides. And so again, you look at this, from the 2/3 of this is greater than 45, and we have 95 plus. So this is reflecting an older population that's dying from their natural deaths. And then this is a summary of our medical examiner activities, which you can see from it's been pretty stable over the last 5 years. Investigations 147. We signed 20 death certificates, went to 42 scenes, 16 postmortem examinations or autopsies, and we had 164 deaths reported to us. So relatively stable year over year. So very quick whirlwind through a lot of information. So happy to answer any questions you might have.
Anybody have any questions?
Very good.
Well, thank you for your
Thank you.
report.
Thank you.
It's always good to see that every year and see what the trends are doing.
Keep the numbers down.
Yes, no, I appreciate that. So,
All right.
thank you.
Thank you.
Safe travels back to Big Town.
Yes. Every time I drive through down here, it's such a beautiful drive. I'm like, yeah,
You might want to stay and retire here.
I know, exactly.
Thank you.
you.
All right, we're moving on to review annual disclosure tax increment districts for the year ended December 31st, 2023 for the city of Caledonia. Presented by DDA. Polly.
So this is just an annual request to review the one-page TIF disclosure that was in your packet. There's really nothing to approve, but the accountants did ask that we share it with the commissioners for review, so just wanted to make sure that was included today.
Okay. Anybody have any questions on City of Caledonia's TIF district?
Everybody's up to date on their payments and so forth.
Yes, yep, it's going good.
Anybody got anything else? All right, thank you, Polly. We don't need to have any action. We just wanted to review it, correct?
Correct.
All right,
Thank you.
yep, thank you. So now we'll move on to the consent agenda. We have 5 items on the consent agenda. Is there any additions or corrections or questions on the consent agenda? Now, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So move.
Motion's been made. Is there a second?
I'll second with a notation of a thank you for Teresa for 15 years and Cynthia for 31 years of service to Houston County.
Yep, no, that's right. We want to thank them for their years of service, and Cynthia, 31 years, that's a long time. So definitely want to thank them for their public service. Thank you. All right, we had a second?
Yes.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, same sign. Consent agenda approved. Moving on to action items, number 1 is consider approving resolution 2421 declaring state of emergency for conditions resulting from the heavy rains and flooding event of June 16th, 2024. Mark Olson.
Morning.
Morning.
As the floodwater was receding, the Minnesota DNR contacted me and they wanted to report $250,000 worth of damage and costs that they were gonna estimate to incur. This is a statewide disaster, which has made it to the level of a federal disaster. So within Houston County, we need to have over $86,677.80 worth of damage to qualify for a federal disaster. So the DNR, eclipsed that very easily with theirs. I reached out to Brian at the highway shop about Wildcat, and they were able to put together some preliminary numbers too. They're reporting $6,117 worth of damage. And the city of La Crescent, the Shore Acres area, they're reporting 36,000. There's a total that I have submitted to the state right now of 292,117.
So what's the DNRs? What are they looking at?
So a lot of it is the bike trail, the debris and washouts and stuff that's on the bike trail. So there's different categories, and you have to have the minimum threshold is $3,900 per category for a project. So like category A is debris removal. So if you have at least $3,900 worth of debris removal, you can qualify for that. There's a bunch of categories. The other one's emergency protective measures, roads, bridges, water control facilities, buildings and equipment, utilities, and parks and recreational facilities. It's where Wildcat falls under for most of that.
Is there any loss of revenue in there?
So I asked about that. Actually, Brian asked me to look into that. And it's kind of a weird situation because it's Army Corps property, you guys lease it, and then somebody else manages it. If there's a chance that the Small Business Administration might come through with loans available for things like that, but not on, what we're putting in for is called public assistance.
Mhm.
And I don't really like the way it's worded. It's really meant to be government assistance. So the word public makes people think that the general public have availability of these funds. that
It's
they
for
have.
government entities alone.
Yeah.
It's not for private businesses.
The only businesses that would qualify are like electrical cooperatives,
Right,
stuff like
utilities.
that. usually. So the other one where it would qualify for people is called individual assistance, which is a little more appropriately named.
Mhm.
Can other municipalities get on board with that?
Yeah, there's still time to be able to file some stuff.
Other emergency protective measures, they had to do a bunch of shoring up of the north end of the dike down in Hilton.
Okay.
So they had to haul in some material there, and so they got some expense.
I'll chat with you later. And so in addition to this just the resolution is required to kickstart being able to apply for those funds and things like that. So at a federal level, the federal government recuperates 75% of the cost, and then the state picks up the other 25. On a state level disaster, it's just the 75% through the state, and then the applicants would be responsible for the remaining 25.
Mhm.
So if all the numbers remain the way they are, anybody that's qualifying should receive 100% of their money back.
Mhm.
It's interesting that DNR needs to go through the county to do their stuff on a state agency.
It's a weird thing. It doesn't matter really where they are. If the damage occurs within the county, it has to go through your county emergency manager. The only other ones that don't is cities of the first class. They have their own, and tribes.
It's just interesting.
Well, I'll make a motion declaring state emergency for Houston County.
Motion's been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Those opposed, same sign. All right, we got her. Thanks, Mark. Number two, consider approving boat patrol mutual aid agreement between Houston County and Vernon County, Wisconsin. Brian.
Morning, Commissioners. For the past year, myself and Sheriff Torgerson from Vernon County have been talking about a cooperative for the boat patrol. Vernon County doesn't have a boat patrol. I don't know if they've ever had one. So we've been working on that for the past year. I'm going through it. The county attorney did write up an agreement, which you guys have, which would make an agreement between Houston County and Vernon County for the deputies to work together on the boat patrol. So we can enforce laws on both sides. We'd be assisting them on their side, they'd be assisting us on our side. On our boat patrol, we always have 2 deputies on the boat. Just for safety reasons, you can't stop a boat and talk to them at the same time by one person. So we'd have one of theirs, one of our deputies. So it definitely help our budget out. Basically double it since we don't have to have 2 deputies out there. Also, the sheriff agreed that he'd pay half the expenses during the season. So we're talking about half the gas, half the slip fees, maintenance, repairs, winterization, oil changes. The agreement's over in his hands right now. He read it over. He doesn't have any issues with it, but then he's also pushing it to his county board, I believe, and I haven't heard back yet.
They need to approve it or did, right?
Correct.
Curiosity. So this is with Vernon County. As far up as their border goes. You know, where we run parallel to La Crosse County, I mean, does that have a bearing on this, or? Once they're in the boat that's up from north end to south end of Houston County and Vernon counties participate.
Right. So some of our counties borders with La Crosse, and some of their southern county doesn't border with Houston County, so it's kind of a balance between the two.
We have to go down below to cover their lower portion then. If something happened.
The Genoa Dam, we do have a good amount of water in our county also. So, yeah, so
But will
You'll go through the dam.
Correct. Okay. No matter what, our county goes through underneath or south the dam also, so,
You do, right?
yes.
So we have, sorry, Bob, did you have?
No.
We hire. Seasonal. Help to do this. Is Vernon County doing the same thing or?
Bergen County, well. We haven't, last year, we might have had 1 or 2 shifts that a part-timer filled in, but we have not been able to get any seasonal help. At all this year, so
Okay.
it's been deputies working overtime.
Okay,
The Bergen County would be one of their, well, I believe full-time or part-time deputies.
okay.
Their deputy would be coming over to Lawrence Lake to meet us. To get on the boat and also get off the boat. So we don't have any issues there. What pickup or anything.
So we were unsuccessful in trying to find. I mean, I believe we advertised for that, didn't we?
I believe so.
And we didn't. Get no applicants for that.
No, none.
Right. Okay, well, you guys have read the. Exercise joint powers agreement here between Vernon County and Houston County.
Just one quick question. Is this just for this year, Brian? And it's gonna get revisited or what's the term on it?
I don't believe there is a term on it. I don't believe
So it's continuous,
continuous or we can, I mean, we don't have to do it either. It's an agreement,
but either side can
Yeah.
cancel it anytime.
Right.
Verbiage in there about that.
correct?
Proper notice and so on. I think that's.
Well, is there verbiage for 30-day notice or something? I don't see it.
No, I don't believe there's any type, I mean, it's just an agreement. It's not a contract, so it's an agreement that. The cooperative, so it's not,
It's not a contract.
correct.
And Sam has looked at this and
Sam's the one that actually made it.
well, I think it's a benefit, first of all, to have two people on the boat. And as you look at the maps and the actuality, there's spots down there by Brownsville that most of the river is in their county and so I think it's a benefit. I move to approve this agreement between us and Vernon County.
Motion's been made. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, same sign. All right,
Thank you.
It does say that this agreement will remain in effect until such time as one or both of the law enforcement agencies to this agreement declares in writing that this agreement is terminated.
all right.
So you can get out of it in writing, just, sorry, but
Oh, thank you for that.
Thanks.
Okay.
All right, we'll move on to action item number 3, consider adopting Root River Trail Extension. Citizens Exploratory Committee adopted a trail plan. Allison,
yes, so we discussed this at the last work group session and the adopted trail plan by the Citizen Exploratory Committee was in the packet. The plan just basically acknowledges that there is already that plan out there, and then it talks about some next steps. One of which is putting in together a joint powers agreement so that Polka, La Crescent, Houston, and the county can continue to work on exploring the trail.
Just exploring, continue to explore. It's nothing is set in stone as to where or anything like that, correct?
Correct, yes. And a big thing that was added to the plan that the Citizen Exploratory Committee adopted is it says the committee has stressed empathetically that any property acquisition or property interest be handled entirely through a willing seller, willing buyer approach. So that is kind of
that's
underlying theme of the committee.
yeah, it says the committee has stressed emphatically that any property acquisition or property interest be handled entirely through a willing seller, and a willing buyer approach. Meaning they're gonna try to stay away from eminent domain. I think that's their goal, is not to do an eminent domain. So,
Correct.
which I think is a good approach to do this and to keep moving forward and try to get a trail going. Eventually, it's gonna take a while, take quite a few years, but I think it's something that would be beneficial for Houston County.
And the plan does acknowledge to all the work that has previously been done for years, even though some of it has not come to fruition.
You know, when the bike trail was first started here quite a few years ago, I was one of those skeptics, skeptical farmer. But as I've grown older in age with a family, I've gone out and done the bike trail. I've, rode to Lanesboro. Of course, it helps to have an EV, but an e-bike, but it's fun and I get it. It promotes economic activity, like in Wayland there, they have their pie shop, and in Lanesboro, they have all their restaurants and stuff like that, and a little bit in Houston too, so.
Lanesboro, big time.
Yeah. So, I mean, if we could extend that and do it through a willing voluntary process, if they get to a spot where somebody doesn't want to sell, they'll just hold off and wait or go around or try to figure something else out, so.
The trail between Rushford and Houston is that way. There's places where it comes down and goes up the property line before it goes.
Right, they use some right away a little bit here and there too, so.
I'll move to approve the adopting the Root River Trail Extension Citizen Exploratory Committee adopted trail plan.
Is there a second to that?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, same sign. All right. Plan is approved. Thank you, Allison. Number 4, consider approving letter of support of the city of La Crescent for River Trail Towns Planning and Design Spine Extension application. Allison.
So Larry from La Crescent is taking the lead on this. He's applying to some funding for planning and design for the trail project that we just discussed. This does not sign you up to pay any money, and this just says that you're supporting the application.
Right. There's no cost share to us or matching for us. It's just to show a letter support for them to try to apply for these grant funds, right?
Yes.
Yep.
We have one letter, and each city, Hoka, La Crescent, and Houston will hopefully sign on as well. So.
And I've been reading in the paper where that Larry has been going to these cities and
Yes.
getting approval and show support, so.
Is this for the entire trail, La Crescent to Houston, or is it a sectionalized?
I think that this one is just for a section. However, we were looking at different funding pools, so I could be. I'm not 100% sure, but I believe this is just for.
I think it's a little more focused on from the Crescent to Hoka,
Yeah,
possibly
Miller's Corner.
I think. yeah.
Miller's Corner situation. When he was here at a workshop, he discussed that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just for the public to know that we had a discussion at a workshop session, so. We've got a lot of information.
It's a letter of support, no financial
Obligations.
obligations, anything like that. I move to approve.
Motion's been made. Is there a second? I'll second that. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Alrighty. Now we'll do number 5. Consider approving payment for car window. Greg,
Well, at the last time we talked about it, it kind of got dropped during the meeting, so we didn't bring it up at the end of the meeting, so I was just kind of curious. We paid for the first window that got broken, and we've had 2 windows now got broken in 20 some years. I would like to make a motion to pay for the car window at the lowest estimate,
What was, how much was that again?
$346, I think.
342, I believe, we're seeing.
You know, being that this was not an incident of tailgating or getting too close, it's actually coming from another side window, rear window situation that person did not put their place in the position of injury, so I agree that we should compensate on this particular one.
So that's a second to Greg's motion.
Did you, there is a motion, okay, I second it, yes.
Any further discussion?
Does it open us up? As far as anything else that happened?
I think a case by case, to be honest with you, this, like I said in my statement, that the person was tailgating. I bought a lot of windows over the years, okay, I know what it's like.
Being
But a lot of those people put themselves in the position of being too close. This was not the case.
In this particular case, it was a side window as
Yeah.
as we going around. It was, I asked questions about what type of a mower it was. I've done ditch mowing for years. You've done ditch mowing for years for Crescent Township, and them things do happen. And we've had a side window on the tractor get broke out by our own mower. And it's just, I think it was an accident. I do agree with Bob that I think that somehow we should verbalize it to be not a precedence being set, but a case by case. When a situation like this happened.
I'd like to encourage the public, if this would have happened to them, that they would get a hold of the police and have a police report.
It did sound
An
like
incident-
she
an
took
incident report,
photos,
yeah.
and she did call the highway department or
Well, right, you call the highway department, but it's nice to have an incident report.
exactly.
All right, go ahead. Anything else? Any other further discussion? If not, is there, okay. Motion is to approve the payment, the lower estimate of 342. We gotta get exact number on that, but
You still have the estimates, I think you ended up with them. I think. Do you
Yeah.
have them somewhere?
I believe they were asking for a used window reimbursement.
Yeah.
They weren't looking for.
Used window was under 350, the new one was 1100.
Right. Anyway, it's for the lower
Oh,
estimate.
Yep.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right. Number 6. Consider adopting resolution 2422 wheelage tax increase. Tax would be increased additional $10 going from $10 to the total of $20 per vehicle. Bob,
It's a revenue generator for the highway department. And its funding is changing and levy expenses are going up. This would be a benefit as far as maintaining the highway department, getting projects done and as a user fee. Well, I would be of the opinion that we should go to the $20 instead of that.
so the money will be used for anything pertaining to highway
Anything pertaining to that.
and the estimated generated dollar amount would be what?
$200,000.
That would be 200 less that we would have to take out of our levy.
Is that gonna be a guarantee that we're gonna take $200,000 off our levy increases?
That's no guarantee.
When I get the financial information, I'll make sure that we use it accordingly. That expense is not added to.
That was kind of the question that someone asked me too. I asked around a little bit on it. And they were under the impression that, well, it's only the people that are buying cars are paying for it, why isn't it across the board?
That's,
It is.
that's a
aggressive.
good point.
Every car in Houston.
Right,
counts.
every car, but not every tax. And I guess how it was pointed out to me was, well, not everyone drives on the county road. So they like the idea, well, if you need that money, put it on your levy. I just asked it.
No, that's a good point. I mean. You know, I get the idea of $10, people are saying, oh, it's only $10, what's that? You know, but it's one of those increases taxes that are, it's kind of an annoyance. You know, it's,
That's when you gotta have. a dozen
and
vehicles.
you think about all the businesses that have fleet vehicles, that's just gonna increase their, you know, and then the DMV has also raised their rates too. So I mean, we're just piling on here with another $10. You know, I for one, I'm not for it at all. So I mean, but I see what you guys are saying too, but it's just another expense for businesses and
Either add another 10 or add a levy, more to the levy, one or the other. It's gonna come from someplace.
I was looking at that last week, we discussed a $5 increase only, but I mean. You know, I know that. We got a fleet of vehicles, we know the big fleet out here has got hundreds of vehicles, that's gonna be a hit, but. It also benefits keeping our roads going and maintaining the roads that we have in our counties.
well, if it gets used for roads, you know, it could be used for equipment, it could be used for Lord knows what, it's for, you know.
All of which has a bearing on the road conditions of the county, so the $10 addition. Increases the cost to anybody with vehicles in the county. But the vehicles are what uses the roads, there's a lot of increasing the levy for, say, elderly people that don't drive. It's not really fair to them. They might ride on the road, but it's the vehicles that are causing the damage. It's the vehicles that are creating the expense. So it's the vehicle that I think should have the increase in cost.
You taking the same hand though, too. You know, Caledonia haulers, how many of them trucks drive a township road or county road? You know, so now it's kind of give or take.
That's give or take.
I think we've got it at 10. I think we should just leave it there and look at the levy again, so.
Well, I've been pushing for this, so I'm gonna make a motion that we approve the $10 so we can have a vote if somebody seconds it to see where it ends up. So I'll move to approve the $10 increase on the wage tax.
Motion's been made, is there a second?
Well, I was pushing for a $5 increase, I still think we need something, you know, to maintain the roads of our county, I'll second it.
We vote by roll,
We're not done, is there any further discussion?
and we vote by roll.
Yes, we can. Is there any other discussion? We'll have a roll call vote,
District 1,
Yes,
District 2,
no,
District 3,
Yes,
District 4,
No,
District 5.
Yes,
this will start January 1st of 2025.
Correct.
All right. Go on to action item number 7, consider approving opioid settlement expenditures, John.
Morning. You guys have heard about the opioid settlements. We've talked about it several times, established a separate fund. Fund 12 is where those funds land. We also established under the memorandum of agreement necessary for the funds, we established a community group and have been meeting. This is a first run at allocating some of those dollars. The decisions on this allocation was made at a meeting I wasn't at, so I'm going to turn it over to Jordan. She's a little more familiar with the discussion. Commissioner Burns has also been real active, so.
From the committee that we have, we bring forward to the board what their recommendation is. Our first round of spending, we'd like to purchase naloxone boxes. They kind of look like an AED box, but they would house the naloxone. We could buy them with an alarm on them, same price. Schools are required to have it, so maybe they'd be looking at how to store them. The county buildings for naloxone access point. Building, so we would be looking to have that. And then we'd also be looking to purchase AEDs for those who would apply and get one. And then we'd also be looking to purchase some not promotional, but educational materials to hand out through the public health office and possibly at events when we're out and about on opioid.
And what are AEDs?
The
Advanced, what is it?
Defibrillator.
defibrillators, they're in the buildings here.
Yeah.
We have them at
Well, I
public
just, for people to know what we're talking about. I can remember.
So we would be looking to spend about 32,000, depending on how many people or how many applicants apply to receive a naloxone box or an AED box, but 32 out of the quite a bit of opioid funds we have sitting in funds. This would be our first round of spending.
What is the cost per AED?
We estimated a tad high, but $1,500 to $1,700
Per
per
unit.
AED. Yep. And then the naloxone boxes are about 139, plus we would buy a first round of Narcan dose, about $50. And we kind of put it through to like 25 of those that we purchased, so roughly $4,000 or $5,000 for that. And that's the AED boxes is the high end we quoted, but which ones we find what company. We have a short 1-page application type thing we'll put out so that those who want to apply can, and then we'll bring it to the committee and we'll say yes to purchasing those. We put a cap on 25 of the naloxone boxes and about 15 AED.
Some of the emotional materials or educational materials, aren't they also just to kind of let the public know where these places are?
Right.
If you have them and nobody knows where they are, they're not particularly useful.
Do we have an inventory of the county by chance from the different cities, different organizations or whatever?
We don't, not that I'm aware of.
So for a person or a group, or I'm gonna say church or city wants one of these, they just make the application.
Correct.
But if they already have 3-4 of them, do they get lower on the priority list, or do you think this is gonna be a lot of calls or a lot of requests?
Excellent question. There's quite a bit of funding there, but we did put a cap on about 32,000. So once it's like they apply for them and then we hit that, we can come back to the group and ask for more funding. Because there is opioid funds sitting there, but this is just the first round of what we wanted to attempt.
First.
Something also discussed was having a drop box.
Drug take back
Okay.
boxes, yeah. We also put in there that we're still looking into it. That has a little bit more restrictions on who and what agencies can have those. And so we're still diving into that and trying to figure out what that would look like. But if we move forward with that too, some additional ones throughout the county.
We currently have one at the sheriff's office.
Right, sheriff offices have them, and then we think pharmacies could also, so we're looking into.
Yeah.
Making no promise, but
Yeah, I don't know, but it's possible that it has to go through a law enforcement.
Correct. Yep.
Not just anywhere.
Correct.
You gotta be,
DEA, yes,
Yeah.
we're working.
Yeah, we don't want to create more problems with places where a bunch of illicit drugs are piling up.
right. And $1,000 for education and marketing the items, so like, once you get these items, you can use that $1,000 to reach out to people. I assume,
And hand them out, it's little flyers on what does an opioid overdose look like, what does the naloxone look like, just information.
Okay.
Yep. How to use naloxone,
And in the future, talk about educational
correct.
programs for the schools, for the general public.
the committee, the collaborative task force committee group is still kind of working through some of those. We put out a community type survey and we're waiting for the results. So more to come on additional funding opportunities. This is just our first round of what the group has decided and recommended.
I guess we've kind of looked at it kind of like low hanging fruit. This is pretty straightforward. Pretty easy to get done and a pretty common practice that we see in other places that are using a portion of their opioid settlement funds.
For this.
Yeah.
It's a good first start.
A fair amount of money. The opioid settlement initially was an 18-year program with larger amounts and shrinking over time. The discussion is trying to keep it balanced so you don't run out later down the line, and try and keep it balanced as far as how you're spending.
I'd say
And
currently.
there's more settlements coming.
Currently, the
Right.
group's working on or we're drafting up a 5-year budget, what it looks like, and we'll come back to the group and just keep
Well,
updated.
The settlement, that's spread out quite a few years, isn't it?
It depends on the settlement. Some are spread over, like Bob said, the first ones we saw were spread over 18 years.
Right.
Some of them are spread over, what is it,
Seven.
6 years or 7 years? And what the state of Minnesota has done is it's set up this memorandum of agreement between counties and the state. And so any new settlements kind of flow through that MOA. So we're seeing additional settlements land, smaller amounts, but definitely adding to the balance. We received 3 notices yesterday for another $103,000. So I think a lot of
Over
them,
the 6 years or 7 years.
yeah, I'm not sure.
Well, that would just be the next round of payments.
Yeah.
That have come in.
Oh, okay.
So. Yeah, I think it's good that we're going to do some analysis of kind of a 5-year budget, what it's looking like. And the group has had a real commitment to say, let's meter it out so that we don't spend it all in a big chunk and then you don't have anything down the road. And kind of looking at trying to project what that settlement revenue coming in would be versus what expenses would be. But I think our projects going forward will be a little more expensive, things that support educational efforts, potentially treatment types of things. So stay tuned for that. We'll be coming forward with more.
Well, I would think with the opioid, that was the goal, is for education and treatments.
Mhm.
Are we still dealing with tobacco settlement money or not? That's long gone.
That's a good question. That had a long fuse too.
Yeah, it did. That was back in the 90s, I believe.
Yeah,
I was just curious.
I don't know. I'll be honest, I haven't heard much about tobacco settlement dollars for a long time.
So do we have approval for these expenditures?
I'll move to approve.
Motions are made. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, it's approved. Thank you. All right, we'll go on to action item number 8. Consider appointing Carol Lapham as internal interim administrator at a E82 step 5 effective immediately through December 31st, 2024. And adopting resolution 2423. This is something that I've brought forward. I've had a lot of discussions with AMC on this subject. I've reached out to Bobby Hillary from Fillmore County to go over some of this with her to see what their thoughts were as far as structure and what we're doing, and I'll also talk to our county attorney. So he's told me verbally he's on board with what we're doing, given the urgent situation we are at with the recent resignations of 2 department heads. And that this is only a temporary situation through the end of the year. I think it's important we have somebody that has the knowledge of all the county business. Carol's been here going on 40 years come September. And everybody goes to her already with a lot of stuff, so I think we need to get going on this. We've had a lot of discussions, but we have not done anything, so. And I've asked Carol if she wanted to come forward, if you have any questions of her. You could ask her any questions, but. Like I say, this is just a temporary installation to the end of the year. At the end of the year, we can open it up. If we were to continue forward with the internal interim administrator, we could open it up for,
Or an external
or an external, correct?
administrator.
Yep.
I just feel that it's something that we really need to move on it. There have been discussions for 20 years. Looking at reorganization and our, as Mike pointed out, and I have too, we're looking at a 100-year-old model. There have been little steps. In 2008, the finance department was created, and that was going to, evolve into something, but then that person left and then everyone went back to their, it's mine, this is how we do this is how we do that. But we're looking at some, major expense when we're looking at the union negotiations, and we need to leverage what we have to not have to add more people. And, looking at our organizational structure, there's definitely plans that could be made and shifts in
Possibilities to look at.
possibilities to look at. I've looked at organizational structures for the counties that have land use, instead of this office and this office and this office. And, even in the finance area, there are changes that can be made so that we use these people that we have in the best way that we can. I think it's just something that we need to do. And as Eric pointed out, I have been here, it'll be 40 years in September. And my remaining time here is relatively short in comparison to that amount of time, because I am at that age where I can retire. And I would prefer to do that, seeing some efficiencies implemented in the county. And I guess, like I said, like I'm saying, the only thing that I would ask is that Lynn, her FTE at next meeting be increased from 0.75 to 1.0. And that is not something just because of this. I was also going to be requesting that at the beginning of the year, because we need to start looking at succession planning. Here we are, we have 2 of our department heads leaving. One is a long-term employee, one not so much, but now we're looking at, well, should we maybe do this and should we maybe do that? We need to get some plans in place, because those department heads aren't the only ones that are nearing that time in their life when they're probably going to be retiring.
A lot of that.
Yeah, look around. It's happening not only as department heads, but as some of those frontline workers. We're to make sure that we can continue what we need to be doing.
So in reviewing this, the amount of work that you do with finance, with the audit and everything that's already on your plate.
Mhm.
How much time do you think this is going to add percentage wise to what you have to do? And just moving your assistant up to full-time instead of 3/4 time. I just look at this as kind of a big load.
If I looked at it and what I do and what I have to address
On a
every
day-to-day
week
basis.
without having that as an official job duty. It doesn't really increase it that much. You know, there'll be, I would say probably maybe 10%, but when you're looking at what the job description for a county administrator is, it is. I also encompass a big portion of that already. And some of it I encompass that's not even written. My job description says other duties as needed. And whenever there's somebody new, I'm training them. Whenever there's somebody has a problem, I think I've referred to myself as a problem fixer because I have those processes in my head and I want to get those to other people so that it's not just me with institutional knowledge. And it takes a while. We have a complicated tax system, as you know. And, previously, there were department heads that did not share information with their employees. They did the jobs themselves and they left. And there we were. And I've been in a lot of I haven't been in a lot of the offices, but I have a very good working knowledge of the offices and because of how it all ties together. And like I said, I don't really believe this is going to increase my workload.
That was my
That
only
much.
concern as far as
So
you've been able to keep up with the audits and everything else as well as do this. That was my only.
I'll be, it's hard with Lynn just being 7.75. Some weeks, yeah, there's not so much to do, but the next week when there is a lot is when something else needs to go. So just having a little more even amount of time to be able to transfer duties.
She's okay going to one.
Yes, yes.
Well, I'd just like to reiterate what Carol said. She's already doing a lot of these things. She's doing her other duties, which is quite a bit. I mean, she helps with the budgeting. She does all the budgeting. With getting that ready. During negotiations, which we're still in the negotiations, she helps with numbers when we have to calculate the costs of everything, so. I mean, she can be involved with those as well. And this way it's in her description. And she's in the band where she needs to be as far as county administrator. I think it's the most logical fit right now at this time, being it's just a short-term temporary position till the end of the year and we can go from there.
I guess my thought is, we're an equal opportunity employer, correct? And are we going through the equal?
I've talked to Sam about that and he said, in your situation that we're in, he referred to your as the county situation. With the recent retirements of two department heads, you're in an urgent situation. And you can justify by doing this as a temporary fix through the end of the year. It wouldn't be a problem.
I was just looking at the opportunity for we didn't advertise it within our county, with the other employees that we were looking at it.
No, we did
All
not.
hearsay, right?
Nope. So, I mean, that could happen at the end of the year. We could open it up for internal, external, whatever. But we need somebody now, somebody to start today.
Well, we got the HR person until September. That takes care of some of that stuff, management of the personnel. That's part of the description too, I see here, so.
Now September's coming and pretty quick.
Well, should have an effective date down the road.
Second. That is something else. I do not envision all our union contracts being settled by the September 2nd.
They won't be. They will not be. We have, there's three you haven't met with. They're gonna meet with one today, but
That's also gonna fall on you.
And that's not to say that we wouldn't look for other avenues. You know, there are companies that contract to do that too. If we come to that point, that might be something that we do. You know, we just have to look at each situation. I mean, I'm not saying that we're going to be able to handle every single thing that comes up when these department heads leave or when this other one leaves. But we need to be able to take a look at it and really think about how we're going to spend our taxpayers' money. You know, we get the best bang for the buck, and that might not be having 3 of our county employees working on this. It might be having somebody come in, taking care of that and being done. If we get 3-year contracts, then you'll have time to take a look and see what else needs to be done. Mhm.
So we need to entertain a motion.
yes.
I'll make a motion that we appoint Carol Lapham to the internal interim administrator at the E82 step 5 effectively immediately through December 31st. And I would like to make a second motion of just one at a time.
One at a time.
Okay.
For the resolution you wanted to do or what?
Well, for this, till the end of the year.
Yeah,
Carol,
it's all in one motion, so
okay,
the motion would be to adopt the resolution 24-23 to bring in the administrator position back on and to appoint Carol as the interim administrator.
Yep.
So that will be all in that one motion.
And the definition of interim and short term.
till the end of the year.
Is there a second to that motion? Is there a second?
I work with Carol a lot as far as finance and everything that's involved. She does a great job. Been here a long time, has the experience, the knowledge of the county, so I'll second.
Okay, motion's been seconded. Any further discussion? Would you prefer a roll call? We'll do roll.
District 1,
No,
District 2,
Yes.
District 3,
Yes,
District 4,
Yes.
District 5.
Yes,
All right. Thank you.
payments.
Consider reviewing and approving payments. Action item number 9.
sit back down.
Any questions on any of the payments?
These checks that are going to the school districts and cities, these are taxes that we received and
Right, that's
dispersed to
the,
them.
the collections through May, you know, the May due date. It's their first chunk that they get, and the county also got theirs. So it makes our books look a little better.
Mm-hmm.
Almost like Christmas in July for some of these folks here.
It is for the townships, I know that.
but it happens every.
We need a motion to approve them.
Yes, we
payments.
need a motion to approve the payments.
So move.
Second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Greg made the
Greg
motion,
did,
Bob
Bob.
seconded, I believe.
I'm sure.
Bob Schultz. We're not gonna have that problem.
Robert and Bob, I guess we'll call them.
Well, you never know, might have a write-in with a Bob.
Board updates. We'll go on to discussion items. I don't really have a whole lot. We had our land use meeting last week. Bob, you took notes on that a little bit?
Yeah.
Didn't bring it- we kind of brought that up at workshop, but. So there wasn't a whole lot to report on that. There was a discussion on the you know, that house permit the building permit we gave for that house in Holka. Soil and Water has brought that up. Or has looked at those engineering plans and has a lot of questions and don't like how it's been presented. They didn't take into account any of the slope. It basically was just an engineering plan for the wall itself, not for taking into account the bluff or any of that. So the Soil and Water's eyes, it's not complete. So Martin was going to try to get more information out of the.
Basically sent it back to the drawing board like we wanted.
Right. So that's where that's at. I haven't talked to Martin last week or this week at all, so we'll see. I'll have a discussion with him about that. Other than that, I guess that I don't have anything else to share. Dewey, what do you got?
I guess that was, all my stuff was discussed last week and the week before, so not much going on since last week.
Commissioner Burns.
Well, last week we had our opioid committee meeting. We heard about that, so I don't have to report on that. Yesterday was a meeting with Senator Klobuchar at the airport to look at what the federal monies that the airport gets is being used for.
So you got my email.
I got your email.
Okay.
Sorry, I forgot. I had a lot going on, so I didn't answer.
She had called, or her office had called me yesterday, or on Sunday at 4:00. Saying they want to come to the airport at noon.
Tomorrow until Sunday night, and then.
Yeah.
I didn't quite.
I said, I can't make it. I got another appointment.
I made it anyways. I was a little late. She was later, so it was okay. She got the tour, saw what the money has been used thus far. As far as land acquisition, as far as the taxiways that lead to where the T hangars are gonna be built, proposed to be built. And saw all of that. The people that attended both newspapers were there as well as the La Crosse Tribune. The mayor of Caledonia was there, the administrator Jake Dixon was there. Brian was there, I was there. So we had a long discussion about a lot of different things. Seemed like she was there to see about the airport, but she heard more about the city than she did the airport. Between what the city's doing as far as the sewer plant, which really is state money, it's not federal money. The water tower program that the feds have that Minnesota, that the city has made application for, and Senator Klobuchar is promoting as far as the water tower. And as far as the lead pipe inventory that they're going through as far as coming up with the information about lead pipes in the city and the city's infrastructure. We talked about the monies for the airport. The question from one of the newspapers was, well, what does the federal money mean to the airport? And the simple answer was, without it, we weren't doing anything. Without the monies, the 150 and the 135, without those monies, we wouldn't be doing the acquisition, taxiways and the expansions and the hangars and whatnot, because that pays 90% of it, along with the 5% from the state. So there's a 5% local participation. Without that money, none of this. So that was the conversations, as well as swatting at the gnats. Little bit of chit chat conversation, that was it.
You didn't take photos or anything?
They did.
Oh, okay.
Her people did, the newspapers did.
That's good.
And that's all I got to report.
All right.
Did I leave anything out? I did.
Well, she stressed how important it was to have this rural airport, that up north some have closed, and then like for processing and other services, the economy is impacted by them closing. And I gave her a copy of our article and the safety officer out there recommending Michigan how well you maintain your.
I read that.
Thank you.
Commissioner Phil.
Prettiest here.
That,
You said it was the prettiest here.
Really?
And it is absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
I just had the land use meeting, that we could talk about at the workshop too. So there wasn't nothing really out of the ordinary, a lot of busyness in all the departments. That's about it, and just a reminder that I'll be zooming in next week, and thank you, Allison, for getting the public notice out on that, so I can fully participate in that one. Appreciate it.
Greg?
We had an airport meeting last Monday, right, Bob? We talked a little bit on that. Wasn't too much talk about building some hangars. Trying to get a direction in which way we're gonna go. Other than that, I guess I don't have a heck of a lot else to talk about. Zoning, I think, coming up this week, maybe.
Okay. Any closing public comment? Anybody would like to make a closing? Come forward, state your name and where you're from.
I just stand.
No, we'd like to have you forward so people can hear.
I gotta get you on camera.
Okay, Cindy Wright, La Crescent. I serve on the planning committee board, but this is my statement as a member of Houston County. I certainly appreciated Mike's, the whole rhetoric that he had about Carol in that position, but I'd also just like to commend the board for your forward thinking in moving with a interim administrator. I think a 6-month period is a great idea, at least to give it a try and see what happens. I think there's a lot of area just from my observations and my communication that Carol or any other administrator would be able to cover. So that's what I wanted to say, just on behalf of all of us that are counting on you to make the best decisions. That's definitely something that I appreciate. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Is any of the opiate settlement money for educational being used for prevention or only after the fact? So we've only had 2 overdoses in the county.
Mhm.
So.
Mhm.
Just wondered if that's.
It's part of the whole package as far as the education is concerned. Not only just to educate about opioids, but how to prevent and what the issues are and the health issues, all the ramifications, but it's an education and we're deciding I think it's gonna end up being, to the schools, to the general public, so you can tone it down to what the kids need to learn. You can add it to what the adults need to learn and kind of work it out. We're talking about, advertising to different organizations that can come in and do the education rather than trying to do it ourselves. Professionals and in talking to other counties, what the other counties are doing and how they're doing it, what kind of businesses they're talking with, to get a feel for how much it's going to cost. Maybe we partner with Fillmore County and do one person to do the education throughout the 2 counties. It's kind of in the works, but it's an education leading to prevention, as well as helping people that are having a problem recovery wise.
So it's all encompassing.
That's all encompassing.
Anybody on the screen with a closing public comment?
Mike's got his hand. Stand up, Mike.
Yeah, Mike, you got something?
Yeah, I do. I've been biting my tongue pretty hard when it comes to this wheel tax. And one question, well, a couple comments. But first, I'm gonna start with a question just to get a better understanding. Will this wheel tax include UTVs that are licensed?
I don't think so, because I'm not 100% sure on that, but it's just for like cars, trucks and such. I don't think it involves the UTVs with their licensing.
Non-recreational vehicles are exempt.
I believe they are. that'd be considered a recreational vehicle, and they just have a standard license that they use for highway use, right? I know there's an ag one and there's a general one.
Okay, my comment is, and I'm gonna try to say this as respectfully as possible. Commissioner Burns, I understand when you say, well, I don't want it to cost elderly and stuff. Well, there's also, in the state of Minnesota, there's a property tax refund for people that are in certain income levels. Number two, how many property owners do we have that live outside this county, including and outside the state, that are driving on those county roads? Also, how much equipment is on those roads and damage that's done by non-licensed equipment?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a huge advocate for farmers, and I'm not saying we need to tax the farmers and stuff, but by putting it on as a levy, you're getting all the property owners, and it's more fair. I think the wheel tax, what you just did, you did 100% tax increase. 100%. From $10 to $20, that's 100% tax increase. I think that's ridiculous. And I think the board needs to really step back and look at these things and really, and you've got a tough job, a very tough job. And I understand you're looking for revenue. But if you want revenue, why don't we do a county sales tax on alcohol, tobacco, and cannabis? There's other areas here. I mean, you look at the state of Minnesota and what we pay to license our vehicles compared to Wisconsin or Iowa. You know, and this wheel tax in Houston County, well, maybe we need to put a toll out there for anybody that doesn't have put a sticker on your plate that'll read it, and if you're not from Houston County, you're gonna get charged a lot. But in all seriousness, I know you guys are getting stuck in budget situations and that, and these negotiations are gonna be tough because you know what? We've had inflation. Last number I heard was over 20% since COVID. Well, it's trickling down and you can't blame your employees for wanting raises either. But it also means we all gonna have to kick in a little more in property taxes. So I'm sorry, I'm rambling on, but I guess I'm very disappointed in how that wheel tax, how that's progressed. And again, it's 100% tax increase. There's no other way to put it.
Okay,
Thank you.
point taken, Mike.
Thank you. Thank you.
Anything else? I think it should point out too that as far as the cannabis part, local governments aren't allowed to tax cannabis, so. The state made that clear when they did when they legalized marijuana, that there will be no local taxes can be applied, so. Anything else? Is there a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Thank you.